Good morning, friends. Welcome back to the fourth chapter of this series. Today, we will start learning about Node.js. So, in the second chapter, introduction chapter, we discussed about what exactly is Node.js, why Node.js was formed, how Node.js was formed. So, just to reiterate it in few sentences, particularly previously, JavaScript was only used to develop the front ends. So, JavaScript was a language which was used to be executed by the browser. So, browser used to have the compiler or interpreter, whatever it is, for JavaScript. But a person decided to just extract things from browser, and he put the files on your system, and using that, now it is Node.js. Like, you can execute JavaScript on your systems rather than just the browser. So this was how like Node.js was created, and like why it was created, because it builds up a platform where you need to learn only a single language, that is JavaScript, to develop both front end and back end. So this is the fourth chapter of this series. So we have already discussed about MySQL Server, and this is the fourth chapter which we will cover in few parts. So this will be the first part for learning of the Node.js platform. So as a developer, if or even as a tester, if you are comfortable with any language, then this will be the right course for you. So whenever we like come across learning a new language, the major difficulties people find is like finding the right libraries and the methods, or like how to write up a good code. So this is what like we will be discussing out here. And for this purpose, we have chosen up the platform of Spurt ECommerce. So this is again, I will just introduce in few lines, is a single vendor platform version 3.0.1, which is the only free version and open source. So it is not necessary that an open source software will always be free. So this becomes like the free version of this open source community, and like it has a lot of problems because it was built way long back. So during this chapter or this course, like we will discuss and learn Node.js. Aside, we will also learn how to create up a e-commerce application server. So Node.js is nothing but an application server. This is the backend server. So backend is divided into two servers. One is the MySQL server, and second is the Node server. So obviously, for any system, you will have to learn one of the databases. So here we have chosen up SQL, but the next part is like learning of the Node.js uh, methodologies and processes. One thing I would like to tell you is like we will be following up the process. We will be following up, or like it will be very similar in Angular and Node. For example, we will have dependency injection in Angular, which is given by Angular. But again, the concept remains the same for Node as well. So we will implement it in Node using type.di. So similarly, we have a lot of other libraries in this node, which we will be discussing out in like these few parts. So just to give you a glimpse of overhead, let me just at first uh, move back, okay, and show you few libraries. So these are the libraries which are being used up by Spurt Commerce, and today we will be going to discuss few libraries out of them. So one will be routing controller. If I just move ahead, another one will be micro framework W3 tech, and then there will be few more libraries which we will be discussing up today, such as API doc. Then we will discuss about express status monitor, class validator. So these are type ORM. So these are few classes, like not I will not say classes. These are few libraries, JavaScript libraries. So we also discussed in our introduction chapter what exactly is TypeScript. So if you're not well aware of it and you like watching of this video like at first, so I would suggest you to please go ahead and like watch at least the introduction video of this series so that you become comfortable with the basics of Node.js. So TypeScript is the language which will be used up basically with Node.js and Angular, and TypeScript is nothing but like it is JavaScript plus @types. So this was just a glimpse like what exactly we will be studying up in our like this duration of course while learning of the Node.js. So I probably will bifurcate into three parts, and in the first part we will cover like how Node.js application works, about the environment variables, how it gets started, what are the trigger points. Then in the next like things like we will discuss the architecture, the complete architecture, and like might also like update it to 14 version, and will also solve few issues which comes like by default with smooth commerce. So why I have decided to like keep it as a separate chapter, this particular part, is because most of the people see this issue, and like we do not have a lot of great articles which can like help you out solving up this issue. So let us just begin. So at first, let us go ahead and install Node.js on our machine. So I will just go to Google and say Node.js download. So I will get up this link which is nodejs.org/download. I will just click here. It will take me up to this page. Here you will find the binaries for Windows and an installer for Windows. So obviously my development environment is on Windows. So I will just like first download the installer and then I will run this installer. In the simpler way, you have the installer for Mac. So again, for installing Node.js on Linux, like you have various repositories. For example, in Ubuntu you have apt-get repository, but most of the people work on Windows, so that's why like this tutorial will be on Windows. So you can download the 32-bit installer or you can download the 64-bit installer. What is the difference? So the difference comes up when you want high performance. So when you are looking out for high performance, you should always choose up for a 64-bit installer. And why? So these are nothing but the kind of processor your system have. So at first, you need to check what kind of processor your system have. So I will just go to this PC, and here I will right click over here and go to properties. After going to properties, it says me that the system type is 64-bit operating system. It means 60x64 based processor. So we will just discuss in a while what exactly this means. But the point is my system is Windows 10 and it has a processor of 64-bit, right? So I can install either one of them. So the better option is because my processor supports 64-bit, I should go ahead and like click on 64-bit. This particular thing will get downloaded out here. Now you need to go to this downloaded like file, double click it, and then just say next, 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 next. So again the setup wizard will come up and you will just say next, 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 next. It will come up in some time. So again you say next and then I accept, and then next, and then next, and again next, and finally again next, install. So you install it and Node.js will be installed on your system. I have already installed it, that's why I am cancelling it. So this will be the last step and like this will get installed on your system. Now let's come back to our point, which was 32-bit operating system or 64-bit operating system. What do they mean? So we all know that our computer systems are made up of something called as central processing unit, and these are nothing but the area of your system which like executes the instructions. So when you say that something is executing the instructions, so they need memory, and this memory is consumed from RAM. And this memory which we can consume from RAM has a limit for every process. Every process has a limit. So it does not mean that if my machine has 128 GB RAM, any process can come and use all the RAM. No, it depends on the processing power of the system. If the CPU do not have the capability of using all the RAM, it will not be able to use all the RAM. So When you say that you are having 64-bit processor, so it means that it can use the maximum of 2 to the power 64 bytes of RAM. So for example, we'll understand it in this way a little better. What is the difference between 32-bit operating system and 64-bit operating system? So these are nothing but the kind of processors which we have. So what will be the processor of 64-bit capable of doing? 64-bit processor is capable of using this much of RAM, this much bytes of RAM. So if you remove this, this becomes KB. If you remove this, this becomes MB. If you remove this, this becomes GB. These many GB. So in the same way, 1024 is the unit which you can keep on dividing and making this particular unit grow big. So the point over here is like 164-bit processor has the capability which can be achieved by using 4 billion 32-bit processors combined. So that's why like it is always recommended to have a 64-bit processor and also like use up an environment on 64-bit. So does it mean that if you write up your code in 32-bit, it will not run in 64-bit? It is not so. Like your JS code, your Node.js code is independent of this particular system. It depends on what software you have installed. If I've installed 64-bit of system, then my code will run on 64-bit. If I've installed 32-bit of my system, then my code will run on 32-bit. The point is like you need to choose the hardware capability of your machines or your servers in a way like which suffice your current clientage or the current load of people which you have on your systems. So obviously like my recommendation is always 64 bits, and like we do not have a lot of cost difference, and like obviously nowadays most of these processors are 64-bit processors. So as and when like you will install Node.js, the next point is you need to go to CMD and check the Node version. So I will say node dash dash version, and it will give me the Node version, and I will also say npm dash dash version. So these two commands should work. Node is like it says that yes, Node is installed. So when you say that Node is installed, it is nothing but like Java. If you're good with Java or Python or anything, so when you install any language, you just install it, and the compiler or the interpreter of that language get installed on your system, and then you write up the code, and that compiler or interpreter like reads the high level language, it converts into low level language, or it get executed. In the same way, Node also works. The thing is, Node is based on JavaScript. And what is this NPM? NPM is nothing but Node Package Manager. So we will discuss about NPM in some while. At first, let us go ahead and create our first file and like run it with Node.js. So let's forget about NPM for now. So I will go to my desktop. So this is my desktop, and here I will create a new file. So I will create a file, and I will give it the name as say my app.js. So this is my file. So I will say replace yes, and this becomes a JavaScript file. You can see that the file has turned around, the icon has turned around, and it has become a JavaScript file. I will right click to this file, open in Notepad++, and paste up this code. So this is a code which is nothing but a code which prints the log on the console, which is hello world, and this is nothing but the hello world application. So at line 1 we have the comments. So in Node.js, the comments start up with these it is very similar to any other language. So you can even write the single line comment such as this. This is hello world application, right? So but the line which will be executed, I will say the only line which will be executed will be this one, right? So I will just save it, I will move back, and now my desktop has this my app.js, right? So what I will do is I will move this path to desktop, and I will just say cd say dir over here, and it gives me desktop over here. So I will say now cd desktop and hit an enter. Now cls, so we are on desktop now. So if I just say dir out here, so I will find a file on my desktop which is my app.js. So how I will run up this file? So to run this file, I will just type node and then my app.js and hit an enter. So as I hit an enter, you can see that this node application has executed or processed this .js file. So this is what like I meant. Now you can execute the JavaScript file on your system rather than just on the browser. Like previously, JavaScript was known as the client-side language because this language could have been read and executed only by the browser. But now you have the node which you can install on your system, and then you can execute this file on your computer system. So this is how like you write up your first file. Say for example, you have to create up your server. So I will just go to any of these websites and like copy up this page code of creating of the server and come up over here, edit with Notepad++, and just paste it. So this is how you will be using up Node.js without npm. So some people believe that you should not use npm because it has a very long structure and like the packages or modules are made in a very tedious way. Of course it is, but like even like working without npm will be a very hectic task for you because you will have to extract the files required by you from those packages which are created for specifically for npm, because you cannot work in any environment or in any industry without using the third party libraries or the libraries available for support for that particular high level language. So here in this code, you can see that line 1, 2, 3, line 2, 3, 4 are nothing but the variables. The first variable is like it says that I need and I require one module which is HTTP. This is how you need to learn this thing. These three things, like this is how like things are being defined up in JavaScript. And I assume that you are familiar with any one of the language, so this should not be difficult for you to understand things over here. So this particular in JavaScript, what we can do is we can assign the entire module or anything to a variable. So we are saying that this particular module belongs to this variable, and then the host name is this, which is like the host name of a server, and this server will run on port 3000. So it means that the server will run something like this. That is 127.0.0.1 and double colon 3000. So a combination of host name and port makes up your server. Then it says that please create a request, HTTP create server request. So this is my server, and we say that this server will listen on this port, which is 3000 port, and on this host, which is this host. And what it will print this on your browser. So this will print this on your browser. Now you will say me, when we were talking about running up the this code, this JavaScript code on my system, how come we are seeing it on the browser? So I will just explain you all the things in a while. So at first, just follow me. So we have written this code. Let me save it and let me run it at first so that it becomes more easier for you to understand. I will say node again on my CMD. You can see I have said node, and after saying node, I will say my app and hit an enter. So as I hit an enter, it gives me an error saying permission denied. So why permission is denied? So I do not have listen access. So I just checked this issue. So this issue is because my port 3000 is already being in use by some other like process. So on my system over here, I will just say port 3001. So obviously anyhow you can use any port you want, but you need to remember that you should never use reserved ports because that ports are for like various set services, and that might create some like overlapping of services and ports combination. So I will just save it and let me rerun it. So as I rerun it, the server has started up, right? And if I go ahead on my browser and hit an enter, I will see that there is an hello world message. So on my browser, I get a hello world message, and on my command prompt, I get this message, right? So In a way, what I can say is like this file, this particular file, which is our application, can be triggered in two ways. This file gets started using the command prompt. So we start this file using the command prompt. So we'll run up this command and this file gets started up. And after it gets started up, it gives us few endpoints which can be executed from the browser. So I can just hit this endpoint. This is nothing but an endpoint, and this will give me this text. So if I just go to my file back again and I change up this text to say, I will say this text as I am just a plain endpoint, and save this file, and I will go to my command prompt, press Ctrl C to exit from this server and rerun this server. So I have made change in my file, that's why I am rerunning the server. If I hit an enter now, it is just giving me I am just a plain endpoint. So again, whenever I hit it, it will give me, it will bring me the latest piece from here. So in my logic, in my code, I can write up anything in this part. It can even be dynamic, right? So when I can write up anything in this part, for say for example, now if I say plain endpoint, which is a new one, so I will save it again. I will rerun my app, hit an enter, and you get the new one. So as I hit an enter from this browser, this particular file is being triggered and executed. In the similar way, this file also gets executed for the first time or when we start it using the command prompt. So what exactly I want you to realize is that any node application can be triggered, or any application server made in any language can be triggered in two ways. One is when we start the application, we can trigger it using the command line, and second is using the endpoints. So this is the purpose of an application server. So the application server is built up on HTTP, and like it serves the browser. But this particular application will now be executed on this system. What does this mean? So if I go to my networks tab over here on my browser, so it will be over here, more tools and developer tools. So if you go to my network tabs and if I again hit an enter, you can see that we have just this one URL which is being fired, and this is a HTTP request, get request, and in this request we get a response which is this. Rather, this file is not completely picked and sent to the browser for execution. So JavaScript was previously known as client-side language, where we used to store it on the server, but it used to get picked and moved to the browser completely. The file used to go to the browser, and then the browser used to execute it. But here it is not the case. Here this file is being executed by this system, and it is only returning this line. It is not returning the complete file to the browser. How can I confirm this? On my browser, in the developer tools, I in the network tab, in the browser, in the developer tools, in the network tab, in the response section, I will just find this plain line. This complete file is not returned, only this line is returned, and this file is being executed on my system by the NodeJS server. So this was like the basics of NodeJS server. Let us move ahead and learn something about NPM now. So to learn about NPM, at first we'll go to the desktop and create a new folder. I will name this folder as my app. So we have this folder on my desktop. Now I will go to my command prompt, and in my command prompt I am already on my desktop. You can see out here, and here I will move inside the folder which I just created. So I will just say cd my app and hit an enter. So as I hit an enter, I have moved into desktop and my app folder. Now here just run this command which is npm space in it. What does this command means? Npm space in it. This command means that there is the node package manager and node already installed on the system, and now we have this folder which is the root folder of our project, and we need to initialize this project using npm. And now from now onwards every file within this folder will be managed by npm. This is what it means. As of now this folder is empty. As I hit an enter on my command prompt, it will say that this utility will walk you through creating a package.json file. So it is not the node which works on package.json file. It is the npm, which is node package manager, which works on package.json files. So there might be an instance like you people must have done your pre-work and like read something about node, some articles, and you must have found that node works on package.json. That is correct, because in most of our like scenarios or practical projects running around the globe, npm is used with node. And this is what like I said during the start of this chapter. So it gives us few like instructions about npm. Say that you can see what all things you can do with npm using npm help, and then you can install packages using npm install and then package name. So these are few commands. So here it is asking you what package name you want to give this app. So I will say that I will give this app the name of Untitled India and hit an enter. So it says me the version is this. I will say yes, and it asks me for the description. So I'm saying that I am building up an e-commerce platform for unitedindia.com. Says me what is the entry point. Is it index.js? So every project has an entry point. So npm manages all of these things. It will store them in your package.json and it will know what is the entry point and all of these things. So you hit an enter and say yes, my entry point is index.js. Then it asks you the test command. What is this test command? Test command will be the command which will test your framework. We will talk about it at a later stage. As of now, hit and enter. We do not have a git repository. We do not intend to save it in a git as of now. Hit and enter. No keywords. Author is host dash tune dash perform, and license is MIT license. And here it is, the package.json has been created. So is it okay? It says yes. I will say yes, and everything is done. So now if I go to my desktop, and after going to my desktop, if I go to my app, it has a file called as package.json file. So if I just edit this file, so it gives me that this folder belongs to like a project which is United India. This version is this version for this project. The description is this description of this project. Main is this main of the project. Script, like we have few scripts. So it asked us for the test script, right? We did not enter anything. That's why like it's just saying no test specified. So we will talk about this script, what exactly is this script and how these scripts are run. So again, author is this person and license is this. So these are few default things which are created using npm. So to learn more about npm, we will be jumping onto the Spurt ECommerce application and we will start seeing that application. But at first, you need to understand a word called as module in JavaScript or Node. So again, if you are building up things using npm, what will be the module? Module will nothing but this complete application, this folder. This folder is nothing but a module. Anything which has its own package.json has its own index.json JS. What is index.js? Index.js is the starting point. Main. It says main is index.js. So we have already discussed that in Node or any application server, we can trigger that application in two ways. One is using the HTTP endpoints and second is using the command prompt. Using the command prompt, we trigger it only for the first time when we start it. And that is what this main is. It is saying that start this application from this main, which is index.html. So here index.js. So here we will have to create a file. Say I will create a file and name it as index.js and say yes. And in this file, let me put up the same code. So I will just edit it, and here let me put up the same code which we pasted up in our previous file. Let me copy this code and again come back to this file and paste this code. Let me make it 3001 and save it. So now here in my app I have index.js and I have package.json, right? So now my agenda is to start up this application using npm. The first thing is, again, you can start the application without using npm. For that you will have to go to the command prompt. I will just say clear, and then you have to go to this particular directory. So I am already in this directory, and then you can say node index.js. So this will start the application as we did previously. But now as we are using npm and now we want npm to manage up everything, so this is not the right way. How we will start the application? To start the application, let us go ahead and make a little more change in your package.json. So in your package.json you have something called as scripts, and in this scripts just define a variable called as start, and if this start variable a value will be node index.js. So now the command remains the same. So this is the same command which will be starting up your Node.js server, because this index.js is the starting point and it has the starting code. So but we have bounded it into a tag called as scripts, which is inside package.json, and inside the scripts we have start, we have test, and we can have multiple more uh, like arguments. So let me save it, and after saving it let me go back to my command prompt. I am already in the my app folder, and now I will say npm start, and as I will say npm start, what this will do, this will go to the package.json, it will look for scripts, and inside scripts it will look for start. So this is a pre-built thing in npm. It knows that all the scripts will be inside the scripts tag. So now it will look for start, and I will hit an enter, and it will just start it. So you see that it says that the server is running on port this. So if I go back to my browser and say 127 and 3000 port, again the hello world application is being printed up. So if I just stop it, I will say yes. So to stop it you have to press Ctrl C and then press yes. So it has been now terminated, and if I hit an enter, it will keep bounding up and it says site not reached. So again I can start it, npm start, and it has started the server. See? So the point till now is like you can use npm with node.js, you can use node.js without npm. The point is like any application server has two trigger points. One is using the command prompt where you start the server. After starting the server, it has multiple endpoints. Till now we have only seen one endpoint, which is this. So we will see how it can have multiple endpoints, and this is something which is done using express. What is express? Express is something which uses the basic libraries of Node such as HTTP, and it has created a framework for you to design up the endpoints. So we will understand about all of these things in detail while we see Spurt Commerce. As of now, I understand that you should be capable of knowing how exactly Node.js works. So to move further with this tutorial, I assume that you have already downloaded up this file. So we have already discussed how to download this file in the second chapter of this series, which is the introduction chapter. After you have downloaded this file, let me extract it over here. Let me say OK, and this file is getting extracted out here. So this file is extracted, and within this file you have something for Mac. You do not require this, so I will just go ahead and delete it. And let me just cut it and like paste it on the very top place. So this file has nothing but all of these folders. So if you see that my location, which is D drive file Spurt commerce, it has two folders. One is Spurt commerce, this one, which is the raw one, which I have extracted from this file, which I expect you should also have, this one. And second is the website one. So if you compare both of them, it has three folders and two files, and again the website also have these three folders and two files. What is the difference? The difference is nothing but like I have already extracted it, made a lot of changes in the pre-built like software, and then I had this. So what changes I made and like how I reached up till this point, we will talk about it. Next thing which I want you to see up today. So we will not do the practical stuff of making things to Node 14 and then making all those changes. At first, I would want you to understand the hierarchy or the structure of the application. So to understand this, we will need this Spurt Commerce application, and you have this application, and inside this application there is a folder called as API. This is the folder for your Node application. So admin and store are for Angular application. This is for database. We have already covered this in the third chapter. So this is the fourth chapter, which will have like three paths, and like this particular API is nothing but the node like server. So what I will do is I will tell you how to run it. So I will just copy it and I will go to Visual Studio. So you should have already installed Visual Studio. All of these details are in the introduction chapter. In Visual Studio, let me close up everything and say new window. So you will get something like this. Your Visual Studio will open something like this. So here you will have to go to file and say open folder. Inside open folder you will have to go to D drive, files, and this is the location. This is the location for my website which I have just extracted. This is the one which like I have been working upon from long, but this is the one which I have just extracted. Let me open up this file which I have just extracted. Let me go to API folder and say select folder. So we will select the API folder. Let me click on this API folder and say select folder. So as I do it, it will open up the API folder for me, and you can just say yes, trust this folder. This folder has content which you need. So this folder has a lot of things. So I will just open it over here as well with commerce here, and the API folder, it has command, source, test, upload, views. Let me open it this way, right? It has all of these folder: command, source, test, uploads, view, and etc and etc. See, right? So this is the folder which you have extracted just now. This is the raw folder. Now what is the difference between the folder which I was working upon before and this folder? Let me go to this folder, API folder. Here you see it has more files. So it has command, it also has .vs code, it has something called as dist, It has something called as node modules. Source is present in both, test is present in both, upload is present in both, view is present in both, environment is present in both, icon is present in both, and similarly all of these things are present in both. So the difference comes in with these few folders, which is VS Code and then dist and then node modules. So these folders are initially not there. So how did I get these folders? So whenever you like set up your node environment, first command which you have to run is npm install. So what does this environment do? So as I said you, that npm is a command which works on uh, package.json, and inside this API folder we have something called as package.json. We have something called as package-script.js. So we will talk about these things in a while. At first, let us understand about something called as terminal within Visual Studio Code. So there are two ways of doing this. Either you can open up your command prompt from here and you can move to this folder. Say this is my folder. So this is the folder which already has node modules. So I need to go to my currently extracted folder, which is this one. So I will go to this folder. I will copy this file. Then I will go to the command prompt, and in the command prompt I will move up to this particular folder, which is this. And here I can say npm install. Either I can do this job, or what I can do is, like, it is very difficult to maintain the command prompt separately. So Visual Studio gives you the option to open the terminal within Visual Studio. You just need to go to terminal and new terminal, and the terminal will be opened up over here. So it will open up directly to the place where you have opened up the folder. So this project folder, it will open up directly, and here you can say npm install. So what do npm install do? So you see that there is a lot of processing which have started happening, and a lot of like files which are being installed. In a while you will see that there will be a folder out here which will be nothing but like the node module folder, which was not there previously. So this node module folder comes up after you do npm install. How does it comes up? It comes up using this package.json script. So if I go ahead and show you of this script, so let me show you of this script over here. So this is nothing but my package.json script which is being executed. Here are few scripts which we just like talked about, like start, test, build. You can say npm start, npm test, as npm pre-setup, npm setup, npm dbc. So they will like run up the scripts as per like what is being said. One more thing you will notice over here is nps and npm. There are two things. So npm is non a node package manager. NPS is also the package manager, but using this script. So npm uses package.script.js and npm uses package.json. This is the major difference. So package.js was built because like this package was JSON. It is just a JSON format, and here you cannot have a lot of variables, and then you cannot substitute them. So there are a lot of redundancy which happens within the code. So you can convert this package.json into a script, into a JavaScript file, and this JavaScript file will be like read by a application which is called as nps. So this is the difference between npm and nps. Like majorly today nps is used over npm. So here you see that you have package.js file, and it also has the same things. It has the scripts part. So if you see the package.json and package.js, the format remains the same. It has the start, it has QA, it has development, then it has like the script part, the thing is script part, it has all the DB seeds, config, build scripts. And if I move down, it has lint script, transpile, then compile, then copy script. All of these things are over here, right? Then you have the banner script. Then you can even like make up functions in JavaScript. but you cannot do that in .json, and this was the limitation because of which NPS was created. So do not worry about like these codes which we are seeing up. Like if you see them that they are very large code written up already. So don't get like afraid of them. You will find them easy as and when you understand things. So try to understand things rather than just grumbling them up. So as of now, we are discussing about npm, the node manager, and like how exactly things are being built. So here, let us concentrate on package.json as of now. Let us leave this script part apart and let us concentrate on package.json. So here you see that the main is this thing. So the main file is app.ts, though it tells us that this application starts from this file, which is app.ts. So we have already discussed that any application in like which behaves as an application server will have two trigger points, right? One will be the one which starts the application, and second will be the endpoints which are created with respect to this application. When this application gets started, these trigger points get also started, and then you can trigger the logic of this application server using these endpoints as well. Now people might say that we also have this application server connected to the database, but this is not the trigger point. Say for example, whenever you on the front end you fill up a form or you registered a user, so the register user end API is called, and as this API is triggered to the application server, this application server in turn triggers and puts data to the database server. But the trigger start point is always the HTTP endpoints for the application server, or it can be triggered when it is started. So this is what we say like the start point for this trigger, like this application server. So I hope things are clear as of now to you guys, and it like you can please feel free to like drop out comments over here on this video, and I usually reply back to all the comments which come up to me. So like you can also reach out to me on my Facebook channel or on LinkedIn or on my like personal WhatsApp number. So I would be really happy to help anyone out there who is willing to learn technologies. So this was like all about like package.json and package.script, and what we were talking about was like npm node modules, and you see over here that there is one folder now with node modules, and this folder has a lot of content. So we do not have any bar out here. As soon as I extended, the bar is so short, so it has a lot of files which have been downloaded. So this module files has a lot of files. Like what files it has, you can see that in your package.json. Let us read the package.json at first. Let us forget about package.script.js or nps. So this is the name of our Spurt ECommerce website. Like this is the name of our application server. This is the version. We have seen the description. We have seen the main, which is app.ts. So you will find the main over here. Give me a second. So it is in source, right? It is written out there that it is in source and then app.ts. So this is source. In source we have app.ts. So this is nothing but the starting point, and you see that the starting point is something which contains or imports micro framework w3 tech. This is what I told you that we will be studying about this particular library today. So what is this library? So as I told you that we can trigger the application in two ways using endpoints or this, like during the start. So whenever we start an application, we always want few files to be like executed at first. So these files requires a loader. So you say that you have a list of files which you need to execute for different purposes, and you can just mark them inside a loader and all of them will be executed together. So this W3 architect framework is nothing but the loader. It is the bootstrap program which is used when we start the application. So whenever you trigger the application, whatever initial variables which you need to initialize, or you say that whatever things you need to import, you need to set the environment variables, and then there can be some other part also. You can, there might be requirement of getting up some data from somewhere before starting the application. Anything which you need to do before you start the server, or like just before you start using the http endpoints, will be done in this particular file, which is app.ts. Why? Because this file contains this framework. This framework is nothing but, this is a very simple framework. You can see from line 32 to 47. So this is a framework. You can go ahead and read about it. This is a already like used library in Node, where you just need to implement this way, and you have to give all the file names which you have to load during the start of this application one by one. So these will be loaded sequentially one by one. Winston will be the number one, public loader will be the last one. So if you go to this loader section, it has all of these loaders. So what you can assume is like this will be the first file which will be executed, uh, because this is mentioned to be the first file over here. And as this is the first file, and this file itself connects with so many files, so you do not have to read it much. These import statements are nothing but these are the files over here in loader. So inside this source folder in API, inside this source folder, you have something called as loaders. So these loaders are nothing but you want to load the entire structure. For example, you want to load the type ORM. You want to see if all the tables are in the database are pre-connected and are already there before you go ahead and like start the application server. Then you need to see that the logger is already defined. Then you need to see that the express loader is defined, means you are starting up the express server or the HTTPS server. Then you are like loading up the monitoring server, that like, which means that you're monitoring your application server. So all of these files will be loaded at the start. Again, coming back to my app.ts file, which contains the micro framework W3 tech, it says that all of these files will be executed sequentially. If none of them, if any one of them, sorry, is not executed, then the like the framework will crash, and it says that application is crashed and it has gone into an error state. Coming back to my package.json file, after main we have these scripts. Out of these scripts, like we have already seen the use of these scripts before. Moving down, we have engine, we have the version, which node version we are using. Then like we have few keywords which are being used up over here to identify your application. Then API docs, we will talk about it in detail when we will talk about routing controller. As of now, you can understand that this is something which is required for people other than the developers. Or if you have one developer who is leaving up the like organization and someone else replacing him, he will require this documentation. So this is the documentation of all the APIs which are being developed. So you do not have to do them manually. It has already been done. There is a process of decorators in Node.js, which about which we will be talking. So this process is used to track all your APIs. Then we have all the dependencies. These are nothing but the third-party libraries. So for example, in like Java, you have Maven to like manage the libraries. You just need to mark an entry in Maven, and like that particular thing will be downloaded in .m2 folder. In the similar way, here you have the dependencies. So this particular folder, which is node module folder, let us close all of them so that we do not get confused. So now we have very less folders out here, and we are talking about this folder, which is node module folder. This particular node module folder will have all of these third-party libraries downloaded. So you can find all of these over here. So the things which start with @types are nothing but the types file of that particular library. So what are types file? We have already discussed this in the introduction chapter of this series. These are nothing but the JavaScript files of the particular library, and this particular file or like library has this version. What is the meaning of this particular symbol? It means that, for example, currently if the API doc version is this and after 6 months the version becomes 0.1.8.7, so either you will have to update it manually or you can update all of them together using the terminal. How? You will just go over here and say npm update, like you said npm install. So npm install, what does npm install do? npm install will install all the libraries in dependencies and in dev dependencies. So dependencies are the one which will be installed in your like production environment, and dev dependencies will be the one which will be installed on development also. So on development dependencies and dev dependencies, both of them are installed. So these are nothing but the dev dependencies. In dev dependencies, you will mostly find the TypeScript files, because in production, like the JavaScript file is executed and TypeScript files are not used. Or else you will find the files which are only used in the development, and these files will not be used in the production. So we have bifurcated these files into two parts, which are dev dependencies and these are the dependencies. So between these two things we do not have a lot of things out there. So we just have the license and then we have the jest. Again, this is something which is not of so importance as of now, so we will leave it as of now. Like, but I understand that you should be capable of reading up this package.json file now at least 80%. So it is fine if you do not understand these commands straight away. One command, then this command, then this command, npm install. So this is nothing but pre-setup. So you can either do npm install or npm pre-setup. So these are nothing but the same commands. So because pre-setup will internally call this command itself, which is npm install. So you can either say npm space pre-setup or npm space install. So I hope that this makes it clear for you to understand like how exactly things work in like Node.js, and how exactly like this is being formed up over here in Spurt ECommerce. So our agenda remains to understand how we have to build up an e-commerce platform. So as of now, we have understood about Node.js. The second thing which I would like you to know today is about the environment variable. So to understand the variables, I would like you to focus on a few files out here, which is .env file, .env development, production, QA. After that, I would like you to focus on one more file, which is inside the source folder, and which is this file, which is env. So we actually have this file, then this file, and we have few files in library. So these all files like does your job for env environment variables in Spurt Commerce, and should be taken as an example of understanding how the environment variable platform should be set up. What exactly are environment variables? Environment variables are the variables which are used like by the entire application server consistently, which are used by different files at different places, and these variables should remain same globally. So if I just go to the .env file, so this is the file which contains all the environment variables. So you see that there is a variable name, app name. This is the key, this is the value. Then the host is this, the port is this, the API root prefix is this, then API banner is true, then we are defining up the log levels, then we are defining up the type ORM setting. So what is type ORM? This is type ORM. So like we have entity framework in .NET, we have type ORM in Node.js. So using type ORM, you can like connect to any database. So it gives you libraries to connect to MySQL or any other database, as the same way we have Hibernate in Java. So these are the connection settings for type ORM. It means that it is basically the connection settings for your MySQL database in this case. So it gives you the connection type, MySQL, then the host where the MySQL server is. So as this is the development environment, so we have installed MySQL server on the local. So this particular system has the MySQL server. So we already have the chapter 3 of this series, which defines how to install and like how to do things on MySQL. These are nothing but the username and password of MySQL. This is the database name, and similarly we have other uh, global like environment variables with key and value. So these are the key and values which gives you like various files. So we have all the controller files over here. So if you go to source, so inside source you have something called as API. Inside API you have controllers, you have middlewares, you have repositories, you have services, subscribers, resolvers, and all of these things belong to different folders. And all of these TS files, like we have a variable which keeps the location of all these TS files. So there, then we can enable disable API docs using these variables. Then we can monitor using express monitor API. So these are, then we have few environment variable for mail. So when someone goes to the shopping cart, he buys a product, mail should be shooted up. So what should be the mail server, SMTP server, what should be the username, password, from where should be the mail shooted up. All of these information should come inside the .env file. So if you see up, this .env file is made up of no language. It does not have any JavaScript language. It just have the key, then equal to, and then the value. So again, like things become difficult if we use this file directly in all of over our different TS files. So it is always a good practice to make sure that you convert this .env file into a TypeScript file. So how to convert that? It is simply done by .env. So this is a package which comes with NodeJS by default .env. So what does this package do? It takes all the values from .env file and it process it into process.env object. So process is an object of Node which can be used directly without the required statement. So this process is the object which starts as soon as you start up any node project. So this particular process will start, this object will start up, and it does not require a require statement. So you can use all of these things such as process.config, process.cwd. What is this cwd? It says that currently the file in which this process is working, what is the current working directory of that particular file. So you will understand all of these things in a while, but as of now you can remember that this .env, as soon as we import it, it like brings all the variables in .env file to process.env variable. So we have already said that this .env file should be transformed into a TS file so that it becomes easier for us to like maintain the sync. So it can even happen this way, that you are creating a variable, you are taking raw variables from the client, or like in this file you are putting up raw variables, then you are concatenating them together and forming up new variables. All of these things can be done using functions in a TS file. So as I said you before, this file is being read by .env and is converted into process.env like object. So this is nothing but env.ts. So here you see that we are importing of .env. So again, like path is again a library in uh, Node.js which is used to build up paths. So when you say that you have small parts of path, to concatenate them together and to join them together, we use path library. Again, we are importing things from package.json. That is not important, and you see that we have some imported few things from livenv, which we discussed. That like in live we have inside live we have these two folders, in source in lib we have these two folders. One is for logger, we will not discuss it today. We have env, we have these two files. I will open up these two files. So in total, you can see up for environment variables, we have these 4 files. This file is present at the very out or at the root directory, and that's why this is present over here, and it should be present over here. So if this file is not present over here or it is inside some other folder, .env will not come to know where this file is. So it should be present on the very root of the project folder. So this file is read by this file env.ts, and it is read by this because of this, and it comes up into a object called as process.env. So here, if I go down and see something called as like this, what does this mean? This means process.env.node.env. So I will just copy it and go over here, say Control F and find it. So I do not find it. So I will move down because it is saying which node environment it is, right? But if I go down and like see up these functions, all of these functions are present in utils. So this index.ts is nothing but this is exporting this utils in environment. This index.ts is nothing but like this is exporting the utils. So in node, the next thing which you have to learn is something which is import and export. So how exactly things are shared between different JS or TS files? So for example, you create one TS file over here. You created one TS file and you say that in this TS file, you are saying that this file should import one function which is joined from this particular TS file. In this TS file, you have a function called as join. You are importing. So you can import this function only if this function is defined as export in this file. So this is how the concept of modularity work in JavaScript. So we have something called as export and import. Only things which have been exported can be imported. So here in index.html, you are saying that everything in everything which is there in utils, please export it. So that is exportable. And what is there in util? So you see that all of them has a keyword which is export. So it is important to have this keyword. So you have a function which says that get OS env, and in this particular function you get what you are getting up. You are getting up a key, and this key is passed over here. So whatever this key is, this key should be present out here. So when we say that we are passing some value, so this is nothing but the variable name. This variable name should be present over here, right? This is over here. So anything which is in red, this one, the things which are written inside the round parenthesis and like between the single comma can be found here. But this particular thing which is process.env.node.env, this is the by default variable which contains the environment of this node. So what environment this node is built of? Is this the development environment, production environment, test environment? And depending on this particular field, it will choose which env file it should pick up and should load in process.env. So this is the reason we have different files. So if it is like production, it will say is production is true. If it is test, it will say is test is true. If it is development, it will say is development is true. And if any one of is true, then it will pick the environment file as per the like environment, right? So this is the work of .env. It chooses the file and it loads it in process.env. So again the thing is like we have converted this env file into env.ts so that we can use functions and use all the programming paradigms to even manage our environment variables. So here we are defining all the variables. So all the variables which are over here will be defined over here. You can see that all of the names are over here. We have host, schema, then we have all the migration where the controller files are, where the middleware files are, interceptor files are, all of them. These are the ones. So all of them now comes to these like places. So this is nothing but like, if you see out here, this is nothing but like a variable which is being formed. This is again a JSON. This variable contains a JSON, right? But this is being formed by these functions. You can like use the current working directory. So the problem comes in when, like you say, that you are creating up the source file, but you do not know the current working directory. So here you are just giving the path from from the root directory of the folder. So that is the relative path. It is starting from source. It is not starting from C drive, then going to program files, then going to something like node, then going to source, and similarly so on. No, it is not giving you the full path. It is giving you the relative path. So you need to convert it into the full path. So how you are converting it into full path? You are converting it into the full path using this util. So here in this util you will find all of these functions which defines like what path it has to build. So how it is building up the path, you can see that it takes process dot current working directory. So my current working directory is this, which is ddive files Spurt ECommerce website API. This is my current working directory, and inside this current working directory we have source. So now this becomes the absolute path, this one which is at the very top. So it does not start from source. So this is the reason like these util functions have been created, and using these util functions, the environment.ts files, now these variables will have the absolute path. It will start from C drive or D drive. It will not start from source. And how was it possible? It was possible using these functions. So if you go and see these functions are nothing but these are functions which are like doing all of these stuffs of like mapping things. So you can see that it says that we are joining. So this join is nothing but a function of path. So join is something which we got from path. So it is to join various paths together. So I told you that path is something which comes up by default with Node. You can use it as a library. So here you are joining up things, you are returning as per the variable. Now you also check the environment, if it is production or QA or whatever it is as per the environment, like you are returning up the path, you are defining the present working directory, comma, this will concatenate present working directory with this. So if it is production, it will like convert this source to DIST. What is DIST? DIST is the compiled form of the same source code. So it happens even in Java when you work with like Maven. You are working with a Maven project, so you get this folder created by itself, DIST. And .vs code, it is created for Visual Studio Code. So for production QA and like other environments, if it is not a development environment, please replace source with dist, because we do not have the source files over there, we have the compiled files. Or else just do the join like this. So this is the meaning of these two lines. So this line gets executed when we have production QA or development environment, and this line gets executed for the other environments. So this was just like a glimpse for you to understand why exactly these things are required and how exactly is the flow of the environment variables. So if I go back to my file over here, you can see that these particular things are being used, these functions are being used over here, and now we have the absolute path in these particular variables. So we have different variables for different things, and all of these variables which are in red comes up from here, right? So you get this point. Now we will not directly use this .env file. We will rather use env.ts files. And if you go back to app.ts, so in app.ts as well, we do not have .env file, but yes, you can go to any other files in API and see if .env file is being used. So you see that in banner controller you have env file which is being used. In most of the other controllers also, like, this file should have been used. So anywhere where you are using the environment variable, you will have to like import the environment variable file, right? So it is only used in banner as of now over here. Then we have middleware. Let's see middleware. So again, in middleware we have it over here. We have the env files. So this env, how we are using it? env.log.output. What does this mean? So let me go back to my env file. So this is my env file. Let me paste it. This was what it was using, env.log.output. So where is log? Let's find out. Here is log. So what is the env variable? Env variable is this. So this variable has a lot of values. One is node, then is production, then is test, then is development, then app. After app we have log. So we are using env.log.output, which means whatever was returned by this function will be returned by this line, right? So I just wanted you to understand the structure of environment variable and how exactly it should be used in Node.js. So this brings up this lesson to the end for today. So in the next chapter, we will study more deeper inside the concepts and the libraries of Node.js. Please stay tuned. Please do subscribe the channel, and please do not hesitate in writing out comments over here on my YouTube channel. This was Anand Goel from host-tune-perform.com.